Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Millis School Committee meeting for June 6th. First, I'd like to announce that the meeting is being recorded. It can be viewed on Mondays at 7 p.m. on Comcast Channel 8 or Verizon Channel 37. We'll start with a roll call vote. Ms. Roach?
Here.
Mr. Conroy?
Here.
Superintendent?
I'm here.
Mr. Catalano?
Present.
Ms. Soul is on her way. Teacher representative?
Here.
Student representative?
Here.
Joe, do we have anyone, bless you,
Thank you.
sign in for open session?
We do not.
All right, excellent. We'll start with our first action item, consideration to approve the 523 school committee meeting minutes.
Madam Chair,
Catalano.
I make a motion to accept the May 23rd school committee meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Second is consideration to accept the bid for food services.
Madam Chair, in your packets you have a memo from me and from April Yu, our business manager, with the timeline. We released the request for proposals on May 15th. There was, we did get interest from 3 or 4 companies, but only one firm showed up at the mandatory site walkthrough on Monday, May 22nd, and that is Chartwell's, our current firm with which we contract with for food services management. We responded to any questions. The proposals came in on the 31st, the proposal from Chartwell's. They are the only proposal. We are happy at present with Chartwell's. They are happy to come and give more information and a presentation to school committee, and I have the full proposal here with you tonight. But in your packets you received the summary. It is very, very similar to how we've operated for the past, I want to say, 3 years with Chartwell's. It is renewable every year, so this vote tonight is a commitment of 1 year to accept the Chartwell's bid.
Any questions?
Is there any, I see the price list on here, is there any expectation that any change in prices for next year?
Currently, for next year, no, that we do not have to. There is the complicated formula that they go through to make sure that we meet federal guidelines in order to qualify for the federal subsidies, but we do not anticipate any need to raise prices. The food services program is now out of the red and showing some profit, which is good. The first couple of years they were not, and we had to absorb the loss. But as part of their proposal, they also, if they do not break even, they absorb a portion of their management fee. So we now have Sean Fallon as our director, and he's doing a wonderful job. He'd like to come to talk to the committee in the fall to hear feedback and also give you some of his ideas for improving things even further. I did check into, I know Ms. Sewell had wondered about using locally grown produce and locally grown food, and Chartwell's has looked into that previously when Eli was our director and met with Tangerini's, and it requires a certification process. They have to be certified, and I forget the name of the exact certification, but Sean's going to follow up with them, and there is perhaps a small grant that helps with that certification process, so we are pursuing that.
Any additional questions?
Madam Chair, I would make a motion that we vote to accept the bid for the 2017-2018 school year from Chartwell's for food services.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you. Our third action item is the consideration to approve a 3-year contract from August 26, 2017 to June 30th, 2020 for the shared school physician.
Madam Chair,
Conroy.
I make a motion that we approve a 3-year contract from August 26, 2017 to June 30, 2020 for the shared school physician to Andrea Kazaku. Andrea Kazaku.
The second?
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Oh, additional discussion?
Yes. So the agreement commences on August 26th, yet the opening line at the top, this agreement made the first day of September 2017. So I don't know if you want to, we're only talking 5 days there, but there is a discrepancy between the top, September 1st, and then when it actually commences.
But it says on the second page, letter D,
Yeah, indeed.
the agreement shall commence on the 26th.
The top, the first line says this agreement, so where you have two action. I don't have any problem with the process, it just that,
Can we amend
Right, it's almost
the,
contract inside, so it'd have to,
Yeah,
you'd have
she'll-
to
he'll
revise,
do it, yeah,
you have to
yeah.
revise the contract.
revise the contract?
Yeah.
I'm happy to bring it back to the committee at our next meeting with a revised date on that.
why don't we take a vote? Why don't we take a vote for September 1st or August 26th, and then you can just bring it back,
Okay.
right? That's,
Yeah.
we have to start, delay the process
Yeah,
of
the
the
motion
motion.
be made for the 26th, so we
Yeah.
can just do that and then we can.
Is that what you want? You want the 26th or you want the 1st?
26th, I do believe they confer with our school, Dr. Kazaku confers with our nurses
Okay.
at the beginning of the school year, so I believe August 26th is a good date. It's just that we did not,
It's fine, it's not.
the first date should read this agreement made today's date.
Yeah. Or even when they
Whatever you
say,
made- whatever you
somebody
made- whatever you
say-
made.
The contract.
Yeah.
Whatever you made the
We could just say
contract.
the effective date, we could even leave the date out.
We will amend it, and I apologize for that.
So we have a motion for the 26th.
No, we're gonna
You can
actually
set
make that, we're gonna make it the day they signed, or the day they agreed. So whenever, so one signed, so the superintendent in Medway signed on the 19th, and
No, but the
our
contract, the
superintendent.
contract is for August 26th through, even though the contract is being signed on the May date, the contract is for a period
Correct.
from August 26th. So the
Correct.
motion is from the 26th through
That's correct.
the 2020.
So the motion that we have on the table can still stand, and we can vote on the motion that we have.
That's correct.
Any additional discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Just gonna abstain, because I didn't hear the whole conversation, so I'm abstaining.
Madam
Nancy, you
Chair,
have-
if I may,
Absolutely.
I would like to take a moment students at Clyde Brown today were extremely happy and created a thank you poster
Very nice.
for the school committee for your tremendous hard work. Truly hours and hours and hours that you've spent to succeed in the passage of a new building. They were adorable. This represents the entire second grade class because they will be the first class that is able to stay, we hope, if the timeline goes well, in 5th grade at the new building. And when I mentioned that to one little girl, she said, "But I like my school." And I said, you know, you're going to love your new school even better, and all your friends will be there. So they truly, there was much appreciation and excitement at Clyde Brown today. They did a thank you poster for school committee and one for the elementary school building committee that we will present to them. And they have a banner to thank Millis voters that I'll check with, you know, where is the best place to put that. So thank you all from me, from the staff at Clyde Brown, but most importantly, from the kids who will now have a building that doesn't have a leaky roof.
Excellent. Thank
Thank
you,
you, Nancy.
thank you.
So present these to,
Oh, we'll put them up there.
for your living room.
Sorry. Stick them up here. Thank you. I had the opportunity to drop off my first grader a little late this morning to school and got to see some of the staff there who were really excited about the opportunity to be in the new building. So it's nice to see. Nice to see. So speaking of students, let's move to the student representatives. Tiv, singular.
So the sophomore research project presentations just ended today, and on Monday, June 12th, there's underclassmen awards. Finals start on Wednesday, June 14th, and they end on June 19th. Students have just picked summer reading books. For example, I chose The Boys in the Boat.
Good one.
Excellent. Thank you.
Very efficient.
Thank you. Teacher representative.
I just wanted to say, to add to Mrs. Gustafson's thank you, that the teachers that I spoke with today are very excited. Even though the building will not be a new high school building, we are hoping to benefit from some additional rooms when the 5th grade moves. And there are several teachers that move from classroom to classroom during the day, so they're very hopeful that they will benefit also. And we're very grateful to both the school committee for your support and to the town. So, now we have some activities next week. The 4th grade's field day will be next week on Tuesday. On Wednesday, the 1st and 3rd grade will have field days. And on Thursday, the 2nd grade will have their field day. The middle school term 3 is coming to an end and grades will be closing soon. And for the high school, the freshmen took biology MCAS today and Monday. And there are a few that will be finishing up tomorrow to make up day for those that may have been absent or missed out. The majority of the juniors will be on a class trip tomorrow to the Harvard Natural History Museum. And the class of 2019 is holding a fundraiser at the Franklin Panera all day this Saturday, June 10th. And they would like to see anybody that would like to come out and support them. They appreciate that. The class elections are going to begin they're going to be held this Friday, so they would like to see as much participation in that as possible. Students who are enrolled in the AP Government and Politics for next year will have a meeting this Friday. This Thursday there'll be an AP Literature meeting during first and second lunches, and these meetings are mandatory. And if any sophomores are interested in taking AP Language, there'll be a lunch meeting for them to attend. And there will also be a mandatory meeting for AP Biology students for next year on Thursday morning. There's a lot of activity going on towards the end of the year, getting ready for next year.
Thank you very much. So next we have time and learning.
Time and learning, Mr. Creighton
Great.
and students.
Well,
As just a little intro, we have, as you know, been working a lot on personalizing learning, having more active project-based learning, real-world, relevant, hands-on projects, but also ways for students to be more engaged, take more ownership of their learning. So we asked, we were impressed with what Mr. Craigie was doing and asked him and Mr. D. Giamarino if they would attend tonight to speak to some of what's happening.
Thank you, Nancy. I'd also like to thank you all for the time you put in with the school project. I have 4 young children. One of my oldest is in 2nd grade now, so they're all able to enjoy that. And I was at the meeting last night, and I know how how much effort you guys put into that, and it's truly appreciated. I graduated from this school in 1995. Very proud to be from Millis. I love the community. I'm very lucky to teach in this place every day. I've taught many other places, and it's kind of what my first slide is so the I teach philosophy. I teach all the social studies electives, and philosophy was a student-driven class that they actually came to me and said they were interested, and I crafted around their interests. What we're trying to do is get these concepts in philosophy class sort of away from the ethers and into application, because the whole year it's a lot of discussion, a lot of walking out with your head, blown away and steam coming out of your ears. But okay, be that as it may, I thought that with this project we could take some of those philosophies and put them into action, particularly in this case, Native American philosophy in their worldview and how they view themselves in the world, how different that is from how we view that now. And so the first step is we went to Plymouth Plantation on a field trip. And I'd also like to say, this is also outdoor pursuits. We have another class, outdoor pursuits. So Nancy and Bob are very supportive of giving us time during professional development to come up with an idea, and that idea to go with it and to take a risk. And this is one thing that I'm very interested in, that Native American philosophy. And so we took the class, 39 students, to Plymouth Plantation, and they began to tell us how to go about building a we-to, which you may have noticed when you pull into the school now is there. So we did that. This was a few weeks ago. This was May 21st. So what is a we-to? A we-to in the Algonquin language, spoken by the Wampanoag people who lived in this area prior to colonization, it just simply means home or dwelling. It is a traditional home, and it was built, at least, I think we know, there, if you've read a great book, I would say you should read, if you haven't, is Nathaniel Philbrick's Mayflower. And he talks about Middleborough, and now Middleborough, there is actual proof that there were natives living there 15,000 years ago. So these have been built for thousands of years, millennia, the same way, never changed. And so we have a history lesson, obviously, with that. And so now I've got the photos that we've been taking along the way. The first thing you have to do, which I was going to give you a handout and I forgot to grab it, but there is math to it, because you have to, there's 16 holes you have to dig, and we dug them down 2 feet. And depending on how big you wanted it to be, you had to cut down the saplings, which have to be a specific species, by the way, either cedar or birch. Once you dig them down, you can see where we're at. That was on a sunny day. It is very swampy in that area when you pull down. That's natural. Did not expect that, really, but so as it turns out, each sapling had to be 12 to 15 feet high, when you do the math, and of the 16 holes, in between each hole is approximately 33 inches. So we figured that out, did a little bit of math involved. And as you can see, oh, by the way, you might be wondering where I got the saplings. I had to travel to New Hampshire, and I did that on a weekend. I was lucky enough that my brother-in-law, also a Millis grad, is an arborist, and his grandfather had gifted him 140 acres of land in southern New Hampshire, and we went up and searched, and we found a stand of birch. We cut 30 of them down, we put them in the back of my truck, and I drove them back to Millis High School. We also had fun, but it was hard work. And these are perfect, they're malleable. Only 2 of them broke, which I was very surprised, but. So that's when you bend the saplings, as you can see, we didn't know. I mean, I've seen these at Plymouth Plantation, but you learn as you go, just like you do with anything else. And the first time we did it, we're looking at it and we tied them with twine from Ace Hardware, but traditionally they would strip the saplings, soak them for a week, and then dry them, and then use that as lashings, but we didn't have time for that, so I went to Ace Hardware. And it was low. We made a mistake. It was not as high, and then we had to take them apart. So it's 7 feet high at the top when you go inside it, and you can see some of those photos, some of which I brought 3 students with me that are behind you, Jake, Zach, and Paulini. You'll see a lot of them in a lot of the pictures. That's Zach at the top. Jake, where's Jake? Jake, there's you trying to help Zach. That wasn't easy pulling that, was it?
No.
So we had to tie lashings to pull them, because obviously you can't, you know, those are high, right?
To hold them there.
And we had to figure all that out, I mean, as we were going, which is great learning, because you really have to figure it out. And also I wanted to add that I brought these students, well, at least Jake and Zach, because they can tell you, that's why they're here. I'm going to ask them to say a few things, actually. But not everybody's an academic. You know, not everybody thrives reading and writing and speaking, and not that they don't, but when this all started, you could see them take a leadership role, and it was a different learning experience. And for me, it makes me feel good, because it gives kids another outlet to show what they can do. And, you know, as a student myself, I struggled in a lot of things, and it feels good when you do well, you know? So, did you guys want to add anything about the project so far, or what you've thought about it?
Why don't you go ahead?
Yeah, why don't you guys come up here? Working together is the next slide. So, Jake, what do you think of the project? How has it been for you?
It's really good, because I've been going out. I have this class and outdoor, so I went out a good amount of the days, and it's just so much better than sitting at a desk. In class, like, I have to like get up and walk around, but like it's just past couple weeks has just been much better. Just like building it's just been fun. Like it's just fun.
Zach, what do you say?
I agree with what he says. It's a lot better than sitting at a desk all day. You actually get to go outside and you learn stuff. And there'll be like problems that come up along the way, like when the wood snap in us, and we'd have to like learn like how to go on when something breaks and keep going on and not stopping.
And work together with other people and help them understand what we need to do and communicate with each other. And then another class would come up, by the way. I have 2 sections, and then we have 3 sections of outdoor. So it's not only me, it's also Scott Kendrick and Anthony Fallon. And during the day, we have to communicate and say, all right, well, last period, this is what happened. But, you know, that's hard, because you go into your next class, you have a completely different class you're going to teach. You know, like me, I'll be going back into U.S. history. Well, this is what we did, and, you know, and they have to do that, too, with the kids walking out. So there's a communication part. And then, Paulini, what do you have to say about this?
I think it's a really great project because, like you said, it doesn't really matter if you're really strong in academics. It's a great opportunity for everyone to collaborate together. I know for me, I got a chance to work with a lot of people that I may not really talk to or socialize with outside of school, and you don't even notice it, but looking back at the pictures and just all that we did, everyone kind of steps up in their own little way and contributes, and yeah, it's really good to go outside and be in nature and work on it, because I know for me, I mean, I don't really struggle with academics, but it's nice to just get out of a desk and kind of do something hands-on and let go. And it seems really simple at first, but like they said, once you start working on it, you are faced with problems. We didn't really know what we were getting into, but it was a lot more complicated, and there is a lot that goes into it. So I just think it's a great project to work on with your peers and just I don't know, it's something we can say we did, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm just, I put some images up. So here it is, we've evolved to actually finishing the structure itself and started the fire pit, as you can see in the background a little bit. And then we lined it with, and by the way, we got all that in the woods. We went out and found all this stuff, other than the saplings. And then we made a bed, which I don't know a lot of people know about this, but, and it's a sturdy bed. I had my children on Friday after school sitting on it and walking on it, and it's sturdy, it could hold. So what you do is you have to find Y sticks, and again, you have to dig down quite a bit and figure out exactly how to line it up in the ground, and that was not easy. That took us a lot longer. Like, everything went fast, and then it was like,
Yeah, that slowed us down.
it slowed us down because you had to really figure out how to do it. It wasn't so easy.
And that one branch that was kind of in, that kind of messed us up a little
Yeah.
on the bed.
Yeah, we had to change it. We had to
Yeah.
change a bunch of stuff. But so traditionally, when we went to Plymouth Plantation, we saw this. We actually sat and then we talked to the Wampanoag natives, and then we manifested it, which is fantastic. Traditionally, they would put deer hide on that, or bear, something like that. But then we had to lash it. You can see Taylor Davis. That wasn't so easy too, because you can't just put the sticks on top. You have to figure out how to tie it in, and that's, it's trial and error. Like, it works for a little bit, and then all of a sudden you notice it's not. I mean, we really worked hard on that. The bed is.
So what's holding it up?
What's holding up is
The
so the
Y
sticks
stick.
will be like the Y, like this here, right? So it's just a Y,
Okay.
and then you lay across what would be another birch, extra birch that we had that didn't break, and we lined it straight. It's probably as long as this actually, right here. And then we had to do it. Now, where you are is a circle, so we had to come up on the edge and then tie that side.
And you tie each individual log.
So we figured out that you weave it up. So what was it? It was
Well, at first we
over.
tried going
She's the
over
artist.
and
She's the
under.
one who figured it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, it worked, but they weren't really together and it wasn't really tight, so then we ended up doing it a couple more times, and then we did kind of sections together, and then all together again, so, yeah.
It's tight now. It's legit.
So sleeping over tonight.
Comfy.
So, temporary siding. Well, this is the other, well, how would I know, right? On the directions that I researched, it said that, so traditionally you would put bark on it. And it said call your local lumber yard a sawmill, and they should have some. So that was what I assumed. You should never assume. And so they were like, "You're doing what?" And I'm like, "Well," and they're like, "Well, you can come try to strip it off, I guess." Like 30 different, I called landscapers, tree guys, and everybody was like, "Sorry, man." So that was I've learned. Next year I'll talk about next year, but now I'll know what to do. The other thing that you can do, you might have seen it in the first slide when I was standing next to the Native American. There are what are called cattail reeds, which grow naturally in the swampy areas of Millis, and 75% of it is Millis. In August, they're like 6 to 10 feet high. You cut them down, and then you make mats out of them, which is, I think, what we're going to do in September when we come back. So I think that's the best bet right now. So I had to find a temporary solution, and another teacher here, Jen Manning, her husband's a landscaper and has a lot of burlap. So I thought, to keep it authentic as I could, canvas was super expensive, and he gave us more than we needed, really. So we've been wrapping it. We'll finish tomorrow. We're going to finish it tomorrow. We're almost done with it. We didn't go out today because it was too wet. But as you can see, Jake, there he is.
Yep.
So you got to poke holes in the burlap, and somebody else is on the other side of it, and you have to communicate to pass in the lashing, where it is, tied. Everything's tied on the lashing. There's no iron at all in that. So just more pictures of it, as you can see. There's Zach, see, there's Zach, and again, I didn't do this on purpose. It wasn't like I was looking for those. There's Zach and Jake.
And so the hole on the top is for smoke from the fire?
Right, so we actually decided to cover the whole thing, and then we're going to cut open the hole. So then here's the big vision for me. If this is actually bigger than just this one thing, is that, as I already said, but the long-term goal for what I'm envisioning, and I don't know obviously what will transpire, but I'd like to build another one next year, and then a third one the following year, and I would like to celebrate Wampanoag culture for the 400th anniversary of the Pilgrims and the Wampanoags in 2020. So I envision putting a garden there and making a real educational area for the community.
Cool. That's fantastic. How long did it take to get to where you are right now? How long have you guys been working on it?
That's not
We
bad.
started May 20, it was after the long weekend, before Memorial Day, so it was May 24th.
It's quick. Considering all the work you guys have been doing. Sounds
If
good
we
to
had
us.
bark, I think it might have taken a little bit longer.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe not, who knows,
Yeah.
we'll have to see, but
How many classes worked on it?
five classes. Some of the kids were in both, in philosophy and outdoor pursuits. I think it was 13. But there were other kids that were not, but we included all of them. And the last thing is that we're going to do this week is we're going to put a sign that actually Paul Sims, who does the wood, we have a really nice piece of wood that we're going to sand down, and we're going to put the "We Too" on it and a little quote, so that people know what it is when they come in. A lot of people say to me, "What is that?"
Right.
Right? And that's a lesson in itself. Is just, what is that? Concerns, obviously, people vandalizing it in the summer is something I worry about. I would hope that they would see the work that we put into that, but I'm pretty confident that people will respect it.
I have a question, Pauline, since you were in Peru, were there connections and crossovers that you saw with some of the stuff
Definitely.
we experienced in Peru?
Yeah. I know when we were in the village with the people, it was, for me, it was unreal. There's not even words to describe it. I just feel like you had to be there to experience it. But listening to them talk about how much they appreciate the earth and what we take from it was surreal for me, because I feel like we all do take a lot for granted, and we kind of just take here and take there. We don't really take a time to say thank you or really realize what we're taking from. And I know we learned a lot about it, but the earth is so important, and it provides us with so much, and basically all that we need. And I know making this, I tried to take the time to think about, like they did. We're taking the bark, or we're taking, the saplings and stuff. So just say thank you for the resources and stuff like that. So a lot of what they believed in, I kind of related to what the Wampanoag people believed in.
That's great.
Yeah.
Any questions, anybody?
So you dig it 2 feet deep so that it won't blow away?
Yeah, so it's a permanent
anchored?
structure, yeah.
45 degrees.
Yeah, so 16 poles that are 2 feet deep.
We put them 45-degree angles in too, so then they naturally bend over. Instead of looking straight, they'll bend even farther.
We figured that out
So
too.
So they don't go all the way over, you lash two of them together up top?
Yes, two at a time.
Okay.
they like cross over, kind of like that, so they're not even like right here. They cross over, and then we
Okay.
lash them right here, so they're kind of connected at the top.
That's really the tying it back to the earth, tying it back to previous cultures, the history, and then actual hands-on. It's okay to say that you don't want to be behind the desk. Sometimes we don't want to be behind the desk.
Yeah.
It's perfectly fine. But that's great. I mean, I drove in and I was like, what is that? So
Right.
This is perfect timing to have this presentation. I see.
Great.
This is really, really cool experience for the kids and
Thank
for you as well.
Oh, absolutely. That we have administration that supports this kind of stuff is very unusual. So I appreciate that, Nancy and Bob.
Thank you.
Thank
very
you
much.
all.
Thank
Thank
Nice
you.
job.
Invite us to the party. Invite us to the party.
And then we have students here. Come on up, students, with Dave D. G. Marino, Dr. Dave. To show us some of the stuff happening. I'll let Dave talk about which classes.
Evening, I'm David D. Jammerino, Mr. D to the kids. I'm the middle school, high school technology teacher. I'm going to spend a few minutes tonight talking about changes to the high school technology curriculum. I've invited Ryan Jubb and Anthony Day to join me. They'll be here to answer questions, give a couple of demonstrations, but also I want to take a minute and honor these guys publicly because I appreciate the work they've done in helping me advance the curriculum. I want to make sure you guys are aware of that. So to begin, the first change is we are no longer the technology program. We're now computer sciences. And that's a result of last June, the new DESE digital literacy and computer science standards were released. And I had to realign the curriculum to map to those standards. In order to do that, required mapping the curriculum around the study of computational practices and principles. There are 7 pillars to that, the ones outlined in blue here. Creativity and use of technology, which is beyond that. But beginning the use of abstractions, which are simplified solutions to complex problems. I can think of a map, for example, or a GPS, or even a simple piece of code that these guys have written to do something to solve a problem. With more of a focus now on data processing and data modeling, and moving that towards data analytics as time goes on. Algorithms, which are simply English language instructions so that we can program the computer or whatever we're programming to solve a problem. Okay? And then we're talking about the internet. This is more now than just internet safety, but it's how the internet actually works and how these things communicate electronically. And then, of course, the impact of the internet and other technology innovations on society and economies. Basically, what we're really doing here is, we've done all this in the past, the stuff in the red, and our focus has been on more media output, videos and PowerPoints and stuff like that. We're really moving in this direction here, we're looking at data and programming. That's the direction we're moving. So in order to accomplish that, what you need to understand is we start here. We take retired laptops and take them apart. Okay? And I rely on Dave Bush's judgment for this to make sure they're not working. Okay. Basically what we do is we start here, and we're interested in how this box of electronics works. In terms of data input, data processing, what these pieces of hardware are doing, and how they output whatever is in front of us, whether it is a piece of media, whether it's a programming solution. We then move to HTML programming and web programming. This is a web page. I don't know if you notice, Ryan over here has got this minion's eyes moving. Okay, so we have a little bit of programming experience there. And then in the end, what we're doing now is we're moving towards mobile devices. And students are actually creating applications and programming applications on a mobile device and or their phone. We're moving in that direction. To accomplish that, get back to my presentation here. And that we've added new courses to the computer science curriculum. Okay, we've introduced next year an introduction to computer science. Exploring computer science is something we have now, it's 2 years old. Video game programming will be a new course, and the AP Computer Science Principles course is a new course. Explain those briefly to you. The Introduction to Computer Science class is new. It's a semester course, and students, all freshmen, now have the option of taking either this or advanced or ADM. Art Design and New Media as a graduation requirement. It's a semester long. The goal here is programming for the World Wide Web. Like you saw that minion. So that would be something that looks like, that's the code that's behind it, so I expect students to learn that. Some 3D design and robotics. I'm going to show you an example of 3D design, and then later on Anthony will demonstrate a robot. What we do with 3D design is using Google SketchUp. This is actual 3D CAD. It's authentic. What Anthony has done, he designed a table that he's going to build for his mom, right? Okay? We then took that model and printed it on a 3D printer. So we have a prototype, so we're going through the process. And then Anthony went out and built the table. So we went through that whole process, the whole learning experience. Anthony wanted to bring the table in here. It takes 4 people to move this. So basically the goal of this is to introduce some kids at the high level, freshmen, as to computer science and computer programming. The goal is at the end of that class, what do they want to do? If they want to stay with computer science, or if they want to move on. If they want to stay with computer science, what I'm going to propose next is some computer science STEAM tracks. There's been some talk about moving in that direction. So I'd be proposing a web design track where they take some computer science courses. Algebra is a basic requirement for all the technology classes. And then they can take some of Miss Hagerty's classes for that track. Or a computer programming track where the focus now is more on math and higher level programming. And those would be options for us. Spend a minute talking about video game programming in the course. This is not about driving cars into walls or making things blow up. Okay? These are really STEM solutions to physics problems. This is a screenshot of a game. And basically what this thing does is it moves, it's controlled by the user, me or one of you folks, to collect these coins. And that piece of programming looks like that. Excuse me. It's solving a physics problem. It's controlling and managing gravity. It's taking into account speed, velocity, acceleration, collisions, mass, weight. So there's a lot of science involved in it. a lot of science going on in the background that needs to be understood. And finally, the AP Computer Science Principles class. This is brand new, nothing we've ever done before. A lot of what you've seen in the intro to computer programming, the video game programming, things I've done before. And now I'm just putting them. But this one is new. And I've been mulling this and evaluating the courses for the past couple of years. And one of the problems I had was equity. Up until a few years ago, until about 18, 19 months ago, the only AP courses available were the AP courses for the higher level program. And I felt that if we offered that, it would bother the door to a lot of kids. Okay. In addition, I wasn't sure if the teacher skills could support that. Okay. So what I've done is, this new paradigm came up with AP Computer Science Principles. And it's mobile CSS principles where the kids are actually going to program apps for this on their phone. It's hosted, sponsored. The curriculum is sponsored by Trinity College in Hartford, Connecticut. And students will actually log on to that site. So the equity problem was solved. And also what I liked about it was, first, just some numbers to back up to make sure we get on the bus. 350 colleges and universities are now accepting this as advanced placement. And 2,700 schools, 45,000 students took the exam in May 2017. This number is almost fivefold since last October when I took a couple of webinars associated with it, in terms of how that's going on. Another reason why I like this course is there's some reading. There's a book. And I'm looking at YouTube. and the book is about exactly what it says, life, liberty, and happiness. It's about data, it's about information, and it's about privacy. And it's about, well, everything that's going on in the news, right? And all that information is electronic. So there's some reading that has to be done. Another reason is it uses what they call block programming. It's not a high-level advanced programming language. It takes the syntax issues out of it, where you can spend hours looking for that missing semicolon, right? Okay. And it takes out a lot of the issues involved with sequence in computer programming. So really it's just point, click, and drag, and put it together. It's like Legos. This is similar to the Scratch programming environment that I use in the middle school. And it's used by Pat over in the elementary school. So it takes a lot of the real frustrating stuff out of it. Okay? Another reason is we're familiar with this. We've done this in the past. This is an example of what's been done. Why didn't you plug it? Dave, will these speakers work?
No.
Okay, never mind. But this is an example I did a few years ago, one of my students in a portfolio. And what she's doing here, which you can't hear, is she's explaining the app, how it works, some of the problems she ran into. So we're familiar with it. This is also an example, and it's also available here. It's on this app, on this device. So you can see it's a little Pong game. But that code you saw previously was that code used to create this abstraction, if I may. So the assessment piece of it, what you just saw represents what the first performance task. Create a social, except for the thematic. It wasn't socially useful. The kids will come up with a socially useful mobile app to pitch and submit it to the board. That's 16% of their score. An explore performance task. where again, they're gonna report on the technology innovation that has impacted society. So they report that. That's 24% of their score. And then they don't have to create this massive program. Okay? The exam is 74 multiple choice questions over 2 hours. And I thought it was the best way to make it available to as many students as possible. And that would complete the loop. That would complete our loop, bring everything over. Okay. So before we did the AP class, before we got to that, we would accomplish a lot of this. Any questions for me before I turn it over to the kids? Okay. Good. I'm going to have Anthony explain his robot here.
So, what I have here is one of the robots from one of the kits that we have this year. Last year we had the NXT robots, which was a older version of it, but this year we got the newer versions of the Lego robots, which are the EV3 one, and they have a bit more to it. This one doesn't have everything. Like last time, and the last version, they didn't have the gyro sensor or an infrared sensor, kind of to see how far things are. But this time they do. They also have this small motor, so you can make cranes like these, which is one of the types of robots that they allow you. They give you instructions to build. There's the kind of basic one that rolls around. There's this arm one. I used to have one that could sort colors into different cups, but I broke it down to use it for a different robot. There's also one that kind of acts like a puppy almost, and there's one that can roll on just 2 wheels instead of 3 needed. I haven't tried those ones yet. So what this one does is just basic for just the robot itself. It just picks up these kind of wheels here and puts them over here, but you can also use what they have on the App Store, which is kind of a controller for it. So if I sync it up real quick, or while that's syncing up, what it gives you, it also gives you a program to look at, and you can change if you want to, but I'll just use the one that they gave me. But it allows you to kind of look at how the program works and how to make your own on what you want to use it for. So this one's, if you can't see it, but on this screen it gives you a question mark, and you have to press one of these buttons here to show what direction you want it to move in. And if I set these up, if I would pick it up and put it down over there. Put this up now, but not only that, the controller's a lot better for the kind of rolling around bot. I remember last year we actually made battle bots for the robots, and we were able to kind of build our own robot and how we can make it the best in order to push off the other robots off the arena. For this one, you get it here, left to right, up and down. And for the program, when it uses this light sensor right here that sends when it's reached the top, so it can stop it before it, keeps going up and breaks itself. But that's basically what we can use these for. Like, there's one that I want to build next. It's kind of a controller for the robots itself instead of using the iPad, where you would use the gyro sensor, which is something that basically detects like the angle of where the sensor is itself, so you can have it at 90 degree, and when it turns like a 80 degree, it will sense that, and if in the code it says like if 80 degrees, do this. So That's what the robots can do.
Madam Chair.
Excellent. Yes?
So I have a question. So I know nothing about this stuff, so total layman. Do you get this in a kit and then you put it together and then you write the programs as you descend so that it knows how far to reach for something?
Yeah, they give you, I believe it's the education kit. They give you that, and they give you directions on how to build each of these. And they give you a sample code, but I haven't made a code for this one yet, but there was one for the kind of like a robot, just like the basic one that they give you. I wrote a code for it to go through an entire obstacle course, and I made that all just by looking at the other codes they had and taking that and putting it together and seeing what worked and what didn't work.
Thank you.
So what I've done over the course of many months, each day in Mr. D's class, I have been developing a Pong game, a replica of it. And I started out following a tutorial online to get the base game down, and I decided to carry on with it and build upon it myself. And so what I've done is I've added a start screen, I've added options for different speeds for the ball, I've fixed different issues with like the ball disappearing off the screen and glitching out and just flying all over the place. And so I have an option screen where you can select the speed, so I'll just select fast for now, and you can return to the menu. Button would work. This is awkward. Okay. And so then you can go hit start, and then you can hit start on here, and so the ball will move around the screen.
These were video
Yeah,
games
this is
with our
like
kids.
right from when we were kids. We're your target audience right now.
You didn't use the code that I just gave you an example of. Explain the code that you used.
So the coding language I use for this, it's not block programming, it's actually like a coding language that I've taught myself over the course of this year. And I've done other things with it.
What's the
What's the language? Which
I
language?
use Python.
Oh.
It's one of the easier ones. It's very easy to read, so it's not like a bunch of numbers and letters. It's more English. So like, I could pull it up and show you, and you might actually be able to like read some of it because it makes somewhat sense.
Yeah.
And so other things that I've done with Python is I've taken one of those robots, one with robot, the basic one they give you. And so I guess you could say I hacked it. And so I took my computer and I had this command prompt open, and I was sending commands to the robot telling it to drive around. And I even made a program where if it detected an object in front of it, it would stop. And then that's about it. I didn't carry on. I went on to this. And I've also done a program which I might be able to pull up in here using Python, where it opens this window and it has a click button and a switch button. And the switch button would just change the background color and just cycle through the rainbow.
That's great.
Then I don't know if anyone wants to try out the game.
Sure.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm really good at
Yeah, I need 2 players.
Yeah, you can go against Mr. Catalano. It's on.
Best school committee ever.
What was it on, like the original Atari Pong?
It was its own game. It was just Pong.
it. Then there was the baseball version that had.
And television.
We have Pong experts.
Oh,
boom.
What is the unbiased?
And then once it gets to 5,
I'll root for you too.
Do you have it on the fastest speed? Can it go faster?
well, if it goes faster, it gets real.
Oh, it gets a little crazy.
Yeah, there was some issues with that one.
I've spent like a couple weeks on
Boom.
figuring out, because like I've broken the game before,
Yeah.
and I've spent like a couple weeks just figuring out what was wrong, and if you something really pathetic, like I forgot a comma, and then
There you go.
you Mr. D would be like, oh.
So you did that all
You
the
would do all
time
that
from
to you,
scratch?
Yeah, so I followed this tutorial to get the base game down in physics, and then I built upon and added all that, and changed it.
How many hours do you think?
Oh, never blew.
I don't know
It
what
was like every day in class for what, probably 4 months.
That's awesome.
A lot of it was also getting my computer set up for it.
So you're hundreds of hours, 100 hours?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. If I knew more on Python, it was like, say I had
Oh,
to train it, I
what's
could probably get this done in a day. But since it was like teaching myself it while doing
Well, you were
that.
learning, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Excellent.
This is great.
Oh,
We're totally having fun over here.
But
He's talking.
in the beginning of the year, I had what's called a Raspberry Pi. It's a little credit card-sized computer that you can use to control different things.
Yeah, that my house.
And so I was controlling those little light bulbs, and this is just kind of funny. And so Mr. D wasn't there, sadly, to see this. So I was controlling the light bulbs, and I told my 2 other classmates, "Hey guys, watch this." And so I plugged it in, and then it fried itself, and it wouldn't turn on again.
And so what age do you start this type of curriculum? Is it just in the high school? You mentioned
Well, just in the high school, but I start the kids, probably 7th grade, and starting to introduce the practices and principles. We program a very simple maze game in Scratch, and I use that to start introducing the kids to programming and principles and practices. But I will tell you that there are some middle school kids who are way beyond that, and there's more of those as time goes on.
Right. As you mentioned, my son works with this grandchild that Lego takes Revolving thing. Is it Scratch?
Scratch,
Yeah,
yes.
he's shown me that to create.
Look, is he in middle school or is he?
He was in 2nd grade last year.
Okay, so he's probably doing it past.
Yeah, he was excited to pull up the website.
Kids really get engaged with that. It's incredible to watch.
Do you notice the difference now that we're doing more coding, introductory stuff at the elementary level? Do you notice
Yeah, I'm
that?
seeing it, and I'm also, Pat's doing a great job over there, but both her and I have observed that it's also coming from the home. And more of these kids are bringing in without our teachings.
And more interest on the part of girls?
Not yet.
Nice.
And I lose them. Some of the kids in the 7th and 8th, the girls, 6th and 7th grade girls, love Scratch. But as soon as they come back from the summer when they're in the 8th grade, I don't know what happens. But we're still struggling with that. And, I know it's cultural, and I mean this whole. Every time I go to a webinar on listen to a webinar or go to a presentation on computer programming, anything comp sci, the first 5 or 10 minutes I talk about how do we recruit for diversity and things like that. I've got a couple of really bright girls coming up, and hopefully they'll maintain that momentum and carry forth when they get into high school. I don't know what's going to happen when temperature turns 90 degrees. So, any other questions? I think it's apparent that most of my classroom is very personalized. Okay. So I mean,
Except for when I don't know what I did wrong because I don't know how to spell and
that's about all the kids are good for.
oh, I've done it. I misspelled the word and you sat there for a week trying to figure out what's wrong with it and got a letter.
We figured it out.
That happened a lot.
People get paid a lot of money to find that missing misspelled word. That's a great job. That's great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's really impressive. Thank you.
I'm going to put that on the cabinet. Put, like on the Mrs. Divis, on some shelves.
Thanks for having them come, Nancy. That was fantastic.
I love that.
Yeah, fantastic. All right, so move to the superintendent's report.
June enrollment, we have one family move out of Millis, so we're but basically ending the year at 1,334 students, and which is about 10 more than we started the year. So I'd like to introduce, I think Mary Jane Driscoll has probably a very brief, the shorter presentation this evening on transportation. Thank you, Mary Jane. Thank you, Mr. Cooper.
Thank you. That's quite all right.
Tough act to follow.
Well, I guess we're just going to talk a little bit about transportation. I'll answer any questions that you have. And I'll start by telling you that I think that we've had a pretty good year this year. And we've managed to purchase the new wheelchair van. If you remember the last time I was here, I talked about that we needed one. And we also managed to get, I want to say kind of like a little bit of a routing program. It's more of a database, but it gives us the ability to see the stops on the map. So it gives us the ability to see where buses are crossing over, and kind of, we're working on improving that this year. So, you know, I think things are going well. We've got a little bit more of flexibility with some subs that we've been managed to, you know, get some drivers to fill in when our drivers are out and things like that. We've made a few improvements, I think, so we're moving forward. Any questions for me? I mean, you have the printout that talks about the total miles that we've done, and I updated the inventory list, the vehicle inventory list.
Yeah, Madam Chair.
Yes. Caroline.
When it comes to the vans,
The day.
and I'll leave the buses off, but the vans, how many of them be above the spare line are you really concerned about? Are there any in there that are really concerning to you
They're
that
having issues mechanically.
mechanically, or it's getting to the point where we at the last meeting, we signed a bill for $1,800 for one van, and I know we have to keep them on, and we don't always have the option of buying new ones, and that's on us, not on you, but the good news is that most of them are fairly new. We have a few that are 6 years old, but of the ones above, which ones are tough?
I would say the ones above, the ones above we are using daily. They drive daily. And as you can see from the mileage thing, our vans do a lot of miles.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but we are well maintained. They do their oil changes. The things that, you know, happen to them are just normal routine kind of things. Right now, as they age, and you see as they hit that 100,000 mile mark and a little over, just like your own personal vehicle, that's when you'll start to see issues. With the spare, and the one that you signed that big, like, it was a spare van.
Yeah, yeah.
But unfortunately, because of the fact that we're just kind of, you see the 2011s and then the 2014s. So as you start to move the 2011s and the 2014s into the spare column, instead of having the, you know, what do we got down here? 2002, yes, and so 1998, as those move out of that area, we won't have those large problems. We had, when I came here, we had about 12 spares that were sitting in the lot, the dirt parking lot, under the trees, and not really being moved. So they had some work that needed to be done. They were rusting, and things were happening to them, because for a lot of time they just sat there. We've gotten them rotating. We make sure that we have a smaller amount, just 5. So when your van goes in for service, we are moving those around. You are using those. We had a van recently that had the accident. So that driver's now driving one of the spares right now while we're waiting for that to be repaired. Things like that. We had a van number 7, as a matter of fact, that had an issue, and I took the time to contact the manufacturer because I felt like it should be under warranty, and I fought for them to cover it. And while I was doing that, that driver had to use a spare van, because we didn't want to add miles to that van because the mileage was part of the warranty. It couldn't go over a certain amount of miles. So I needed to have time to do that. So I said, no more miles. Take this, and we'll let that one, you know. And so we ended up getting it covered. So, you know, those kind of little things. That's why you need those backup vehicles, and that's why I have put some money into the older ones, but it's because that's all we have. So we have to kind of keep them running.
No, I understand that. So Van, using your 100,000 mile kind of threshold,
Reference and
how's 12?
And 12.
It's got 119, 287. It's a 2011.
And it's one of the Ford, it's the heavier duty type of van, it's the bigger van, it's the Ford E150, which we don't have as many problems with those.
A little sturdier.
Right, they're a little sturdier. The Caravans are more like a personal vehicle. They're really not, you know, made to be But the Fords, where they're a bigger vehicle, they're a little more like a truck, built like a truck than a van, and they do wear and tear a little bit better.
So you can get in, you can get above 100,000 and maybe
Yeah.
not be in.
The caravans will go above 100,000. They might start to see bigger kind of issues with them. It won't be just the brakes and the exhaust and the tires. You know, you might see a transmission or valve or something.
So is there another vehicle that other districts are using or in the industry, or is it you get the caravan and you run it up to about 100 and then start making decisions? Are there really any other options?
Well, I know that a lot of people are going to, they have that Ford Transit out there, which is a little bit more of a bus kind of looking thing, and I guess they're building them a little bit more for a passenger transport. It's the cost versus the wear. Like a caravan, you can pick them up in the 20s, 22, 23, 24, brand new, brand new. When you start getting into the bigger things and the more heavy duty things, you're gonna pay a little bit more for that too. So you want to balance it out. Are we going to replace them often enough that it's not going to be a big issue? And we did really look hard this year, and we've managed to diversify our maintenance because I felt like we weren't getting a fair shake with some of our vendors. So that has helped. And I do get on the phone with them and say, look, we're a nonprofit, we're a school, can you bring our labor down? And they will work with us a little bit like that. So we are working on things from that end also. So I think we're okay now. If it's something we want to look at for the future, and I would really study it for you, you know, I wouldn't just,
No.
it's something we really want to think about before we do it, because you are going to pay a bigger price. You know, so that's kind of thing. And a lot of your vans, our vans, I should say, because it's mine now. But we do have a lot of vehicles out there that have just one child. So do you really want to invest in it? That's the thing. You have to kind of weigh it all out. It's the whole picture, looking at it as one big thing and then saying, okay, what's really best for us in our system.
So the idea is, if we can get if we can find some money sometime to get a couple new caravans in and drop a couple of these 2011s off, we can
Right.
start keeping the miles down and we may be okay.
Right. And then
Okay.
we want to move like the 98 out of there
Yes.
and those kind of things, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Also.
Any additional questions?
You also have an update of the transportation revolving fund that, Mary Jane had worked hard to work to get a little bit of revenue by transporting students if they're going to the same schools our students are going. We also picked up some business when Accept was struggling to fulfill all of their routes that they do for all the Accept and other districts, and the projection is that we will not have the Accept routes at that same level for next year. So we're monitoring the revolving. At this point, it looks like come summer, once the routes fall into place and Mary Jane's able to predict what our fall routes look like, that we should have enough money to purchase a van, knowing that we'll have a little less revenue if things continue the way they are, that we'll still be in good enough shape to purchase one of the vans. But we'd like to wait until the fall to make that decision.
I would like to talk a little bit about the big buses.
Sure.
The big yellow buses. Because what we are going to have is, if things play out the way Nancy and I have talked about, that we may not be able to keep more than one. Is that still the, okay. Where you normally keep two, I guess, as subs, and because of the cost, and it's looking like we may only be able to keep one. That could be a little bit of a concern. Because right now your spare big buses, you have a 2004, and you have two 2009s. Those are your spares. So we, and I should say we, I'm sorry, I'm saying we, but we really need to keep, I'd like to see if there was some way we could keep the two only because I see the issues that we're having already with those spares, and that means another 5 years with them. And I don't see that they
It'll make it.
yeah.
So
without-
you're talking the 2009 and the 4?
Yes.
All
The
three?
4's in the worst shape. The 4 is definitely in the
Can
worst
you
shape.
imagine?
Yeah, a lot of the drivers don't even want to drive it. It's in rough shape, but, I mean, it passes inspection. You know, we keep it maintained just like we do the rest of them. But what happens with a bus? That's why towns turn their buses over every 3 years and every 5 years. They build them to last that long. So, you know, after the 3 years, you start to see, like, you know, the brakes and the exhaust and things like that. But the first 3 years, it's great. And this town, we don't do many miles on our buses. We're only at 30,000 and we've had them on 4 years. We're going into our 5th year with those buses. And we're at 30,000 miles. That's low miles per bus. Once you start hitting the 50 and the 75, like we see with our spares that are at that point, you start having the issues with the transmissions and with the engines. You know, I've seen situations where we've had to replace engines in buses because we ran them so old, you know. And then you start to have issues with rust, and they start to fail inspection because they have holes, and they have, right now we're okay and ours are passing inspection, but I'm worried about 6 more years from now, what those ones will look like.
So what you're telling us is we need 2 when this lease is over.
We need to think about it. We need to think about trying to squeeze 2 out of that group, or making the contract a shorter contract, if we put something like that.
What's the cost of buying one of those used buses?
I think the contract that we have presently with that is the buyout is in 45 or 50.
It was 40, when you gave me the quote earlier, it was 40 for the long nose bus and 45 for the snub nose.
Yeah, the flat nose. Yeah.
So we're talking 90,000, 80 to 90,000 to buy 2. Would you dump all 3 of the spares? Because some of it's a space issue too, right?
I would not dump them only because of the fact that that's the only spares you have. 2 spares would not be enough spares. I see the amount of athletics we do, and sometimes we have, just the other day, we had every single bus out.
So how many spares would you like in an ideal situation?
I would keep, if we could keep 2, I would keep all 5 spares. Only because the 3 are in such rough shape. They would be our last resort. The new tour ones would be the ones I would use the most often, and then those would be a backup plan for when a bus is down, because that happens. And you have to, you know, you don't know, you could have a bus accident, anything can happen. One of the drivers pulled in the driveway out here and took their mirror off. Now your bus is going to sit till we can get a mirror on there, you know, and then you've got to order it, and that's kind of that kind of a thing. So you have to have that leeway of a backup. But to have 3 spares that are all that age, and only have 1 that's going to really be running every day, those spares are going to start to have issues. Another 10, 15, 30,000 miles, and we're talking 5 years, 6 years.
So we have 5 regular buses.
6.
6. So our fleet of big buses should be 11.
Yeah.
If what you're saying is the 5 spares and the 6 full-time new lease.
Right.
So 6 lease and 5 spares.
Yeah. If you're going to keep them that old. If you had 3 that were they were all 2011s, then you'd probably be okay. But when you're running a 2004 and a 2009, it's creeping up on, 20 years old, that 2004.
So we're driving 2012s on the lease right now, right?
Right.
How about just quantity-wise in terms of having the spare? Forget about the age piece, but like you said, the other day we had athletic runs, we had them all out. I know that there's been times when we don't have enough buses to get to where all the teams need to get to. How many would we need in order to know that we could get all the transportation needs on a given day accommodated?
Well, I mean, nothing's perfect and nothing's infallible, but on those particular times that I'm aware of, we had buses down. That was one of the issues, is that we had buses down. So, unfortunately, and right as we got one up, another one went down. Because I was like, oh yeah, I sat in a meeting with the athletic director and I was like, we're good tonight, we're good. And then the next day, another bus went down, so we were like, oh no. But so, nothing's perfect, but if you wanted a better cushion,
Yep.
yeah, then you want to pick up a couple more spares. You need a couple more spares. We can handle what we have if they were all perfect and brand new, but they're not, and things happen and things do go down, and you have to plan for that. Because even a brand new bus can have a problem. You can have an accident with it. I mean, you know. So
if at the end of this contract we do get 2 more, would you keep bus 21, or would you dispose of that one so we'd have 4 spares, or would you keep it?
I would keep it. I would keep it for a little while anyway, till I felt safe with the cushion. Then I would maybe see if we could get some money for it somewhere, you know, just for the metal alone, or, you know, sometimes you can get it.
Is there a market anywhere for 40,000? So if we did that, we get the 2. We get the 2 at the end of next time, and we hold on to bus 21 for a year or 2. When we're mid-contract, is there an opportunity to go find maybe a 40,000, 50,000 mile bus somewhere for, you know, 20, 30 grand, that we could then say, okay, I don't want to hold on to bus 21 until the whole next contract. Even if I can make it work, I don't want to make it work. But if we could trade that in, maybe that plus 30 grand or 20 grand gets us, so we can maintain 5 spares, but now the quality of the spare, of that 5th spare, is a lot better than.
That's a great idea, because I can reach out to the person who we do contract with. I'm not sure if you're familiar with George Logan, but I know him very well, and he is the person who you right now contract with and get your buses from. And he always has people that are turning in their lease buses, and if we let him know, can you keep an eye out for such and such, he would, and he would definitely get in touch with us and say, here's what I have available for you. So yeah, that's a great idea. And so you're picking up something that's used, but it's still newer than what you have.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah. And I would make sure it was in good shape. I would test drive it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So.
Would it be helpful, instead of getting another large 77 or 83 passenger, to look for more of the, you know, 19, 20 passenger minibuses?
Those would be good too, because that would still be a good sport bus, something that you could use for the athletics. It might not be something that we're going to use to take kids to and from school, but we'd have the other spares for that. And that would be a good cushion for our athletics, which is sometimes even a small field trip. One class going somewhere, or a team going somewhere, could use a bus that size. So that wouldn't be a bad alternative either.
So what we need to do is we need to come up with a plan, and not just for the sped vans, but for the buses as well. Mark, I like your idea, because I was going to ask a similar question, that we wait to the end of the lease, but what are we going to do mid-lease? And I'm sure there's leases coming back every single year, right? So we just get it, but we need to establish what we think is a reasonable cycle for us, that we can't ignore the sped vans. We have to balance it out, and we have to worry about losing money on the revolving too with the accept. So we have competing needs and competing revenue, or decreasing revenue.
How much of this accept revenue, or even the Medfield, the Hopedale, the Norwood, how much of that do we think is at risk for next year?
I think the 90,000 from accept is the, currently we are not doing any runs for accept. At all. We helped get them through a period where they were transitioning, and they have a new manager, and I think they're in better shape. It's not to say that they might need something or have a student going the same place we're going, but currently I don't anticipate getting any revenue from accept next year. The others?
The other towns? Well, Norwood actually just contacted me today and asked me if we could add another student on the run that we're doing for them. And Nancy and I have talked about this also, is I don't want to get us in a situation where our vans have just other towns' children on them, because that's not a good situation for us. what we want to do is streamline ourselves in a way that when they come to us, if we're going there, yes, that makes sense for us
Yeah.
to pick up your child. But if we're not, if we're not going there, that's just kind of like an added burden to us and an added expense and something extra that our vehicles are doing. And we're kind of taking on a lot of the cost of, so we really kind of want to make sure that when they do contact us, and they will, because I've put it out there, I sent out an email saying, here, we're out there and if we can help you, contact us, and already some people have. But we're critiquing what they are asking us to do. We're not just going to take everything they ask. We're going to look at it, and if it makes sense for us, then that's something that we'll consider doing.
Any other questions?
I'm good.
Thank you. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you. I love it here. It's fantastic. It's awesome.
Well, you've done a good job, very good job.
Thank you.
Now we have Kate Tessier and Mr. Millis. To talk about even more needs. But it says
And I'd like to add my congratulations and thanks for all your work and all your advocacy for the new Clyde Brown building. I think it's great news and it's going to benefit all the kids in the district. So thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Well, Kay and I aren't going to be as exciting as the
Where's your robot? Robot game for us?
But I thought it was very interesting that we were looking at technology used thousands of years ago and technology used in the classroom. So they were doing the same thing, they were problem solving. I thought it was, it was an interesting match. And not entirely intentional, but it's something I observed as we were doing it. So Kay and I are here to talk about a proposal to pilot Chromebooks in the incoming 9th grade class of 2021. And just some of the background on the proposal.
We're going to get one of the kids. Technology director.
I got it.
spinning wheel. Yeah.
Oh, the spinning wheel, no, I see.
Well, so just on the background, over the last few years, we've seen a lot of growth in the Google Apps and the use of Google Docs, and more Google's being used in our classroom. There's more and more web-based and cloud-based tools available, and Kay has been able to do some work to purchase some Chromebooks that we've been able to use in the high school classrooms. Over the past couple of years, we've seen more and more students who are electing, it's usually in the junior and senior classes, more and more of those kids are choosing to bring in their own device and not use the school-issued iPad. And for the most part, we've been able to support that. The infrastructure has been able to support that, and we've been able to repurpose some of those iPads that the seniors and juniors aren't using, get those into the hands of kids in the 7th grade. So it's almost a win-win where we're getting more devices used in the school. And so we have, this has kind of been happening organically with these devices. And so, you know, more and more the talk has been comparing the iPads with the Chromebooks. In April of this year, I conducted a survey of the high school staff. We had 29 teachers respond. 13 of the 29 had actually been able to use Chromebooks in their classes. 16 had not. So, you know, it was almost 50-50 on that aspect. And hopefully the next slide we see will have some of the results of that survey. But when asked which device do you think would best fit the learning needs in your class, okay, 58.6%, basically 17 teachers said Chromebooks, 4 teachers said iPads, and then there were 8 don't know, no opinion. And sorry, the teacher feedback, you know, talked about some of the things, some of the reasons that they felt Chromebooks would be a better fit. They noted the compatibility with Google Apps and Google Classroom. They noted real-time feedback using Google Docs, and that's something that's, particularly in English, has almost revolutionized the teaching of writing in our school, where kids work on a document in class, and the teacher can look at all the documents and give real-time feedback. The English teachers love that. They also like the idea of the integrated keyboard. And again, some teachers have pulled their classes, and the students have preferred using the Chromebooks. And again, we have kind of the organic movement of kids just bringing in laptops. So some kids are bringing laptops, some kids are bringing Chromebooks. And again, that's usually the upper grades. And this proposal, I'll go to the next slide, this proposal would not remove iPads from high school to high school. The demonstration with Dave D, I think you saw Anthony had an iPad using it for programming. I can say Dave D was one of the 4 teachers that responded. The iPad best serves his need. There's still a very important, I would say, essential creation tool in our school. So the proposal that Kay is going to outline in a little bit does include us continuing to have iPad presence in the school with new iPads. And just looking at it historically, I really believe that back when we started the one-to-one initiative, iPads were the right device, the right tool for the job at the time. We had, when we started the iPad, and I'm not sure if any of you were on the committee at the time, we ran a trial run also with netbooks. And the netbooks did not serve our needs. It didn't work. The iPad was definitely the best tool for the job. The iPad had all kinds of creation capabilities that no other device had. Now we fast forward to 2017, and those creation capabilities of making videos, taking pictures, all that only the iPad could do back then, every kid has that in their pocket now. I mean, you see the kids filming on their phones, taking pictures on their phones, and it's spread across the curriculum. They're doing it in all their classes. So I think the creative power that the iPads brought to our classrooms is still there. It's just in a smaller form, and it's in the kids' pockets. So I think, you know, what we're looking at now is not abandoning the iPads by any stretch of the imagination. I think the proposal that we're making tonight keeps that, but also leverages another device that will better fit the needs in the high school with the high school students, and is a cost-effective solution as well. So, and, you know, Kay can talk a little bit more about some of the district perspective on this. And as we go along, if you have any questions, feel free.
So as a continuation of the rationale, it was like in 2014-15 that Chromebooks kind of came on all of our radars. We kept hearing about them, different sources, occasionally from teachers. I heard about it from other tech directors, just, you know, a different device that had come out that was fairly reasonable in price and did some of the things that the iPad did. So I purchased some Chromebooks in the beginning of 2015, the end of the kind of that 2014-15 year, to pilot them in all 3 schools. So 6 Chromebooks went to a teacher in each building, and I had a little survey for the students and for the teacher about how they feel about it, how did it work, was it dependable, all of the above, and they were very enthusiastic about it. So that was our first experience with it, and they were very enthused. You know, another thing that, you know, plays into this is the district standardized on Google Apps, or the Google Suite, 2 years ago, and, you know, naturally the Google Suite works very seamlessly in Chrome on the Chromebook. And as Bob is saying, you know, our English teachers are now giving feedback in real time to students, and it's seamless. It's not that it isn't done on the iPad, and it feels like every year and every upgrade, Apple gets better at it, but they are competitors, so it isn't perfect. We have additional Chromebooks that were integrated in the district over time. Teachers that were writing and being awarded merit grants were asking to purchase Chromebooks, as well as our special education department. So again, all of this is just more Chromebooks being spread throughout the district. So one of the things that I do is I go on a listening tour with teachers, and on each of the listening tours I've been on, teachers also started talking to me about Chromebooks. Naturally, everybody wants more devices, but specifically they're honing in on Chromebooks. And then another piece of this is, you know, again, in the last 2 years, we've chosen not to do, until this year, we didn't do our MCAS electronically, where we were able to opt out of it. And at my tech director meetings, you know, we would have a meeting and people would talk about how it went. And the iPads were a bit glitchy, and the Chromebooks were pretty seamless. And the other piece of the iPads for the MCAS testing is because it's a virtual keyboard, the students can't take the test with the virtual keyboard because it covers half the screen. So we had to purchase keyboards at $50 a pop for all of our iPads that were going to be used for testing. So it's just another expense, just another piece to this puzzle of where we're going. Again, to continue, we've had significant professional development on various Google apps, including Google Classroom, which has resulted in increased use of Google Classroom. And then last year, you okayed us to purchase 120 Chromebooks, which we put 72 of them in this building, and we put 48 at Clyde Brown. And people are clamoring for more. If I go back down to Nancy's recent listening tour, you know, her comment to me was she heard resoundingly from teachers that, you know, the students love the Chromebooks and they really love the Chromebooks. But I did want to make a note here that we had our 8th grade students do, we had 2 4th grade and 8th grade tested MCAS this year electronically. 4th grade, we took the Chromebooks from this building and brought them to Clyde Brown. That was successful, but our 8th grade tested using iPads with the external keyboards, and it went totally smoothly. You know, they had we weren't sure, like in November when I was meeting with people about preparing for the MCAS, Apple's operating system wasn't really quite there. And I think it was December 13th, we got noticed that they had an upgrade, and that particular upgrade was going to work for MCAS this year. So we went with that. We locked the iPads down so that nobody could upgrade. And of course, Apple did come out with an upgrade in the middle of MCAS, but fortunately things were locked down. But I do want to say that we had a fine experience with it. And again, here I'm back to my preparing for the mandated online testing. And note particularly the implementation schedule. So this year it was grades 4 and 8 electronically. Next year it's going to be 4, 5, 7, and 8, plus science in both grades 5 and 8. And then in 2019, all MCAS testing. And frankly, this year, even with 2 grades, there's only a narrow window that you can test in that the state gives you. And just preparing the devices, actually getting the devices from this building to that building, and getting mice and doing everything we needed to do, it really put in perspective, I think, for all of us, how this is going to impact us next year, never mind in 2019. But in this building, or the middle school, it's going to be 5, 7, 8, 3 of the 4 grades, and we don't have really enough devices to borrow and shift around. But at any rate, and then as Bob had mentioned and other teachers have mentioned, the integrated keyboard, as the kids get older and they're inputting a lot of data because they're writing things, an integrated keyboard is a little bit different than the virtual keyboard. It makes it much easier for them. And then device management, I will say on the back end for us, Apple is getting better again, and I think part of it is competition with the management. But the management on Apple, the iPads were originally designed to be mine or yours, not at a school, and so the back end management is very cumbersome and very difficult to manage. Whereas the Chromebooks are, Dave sets them up, and we don't think about them again. It's very easy. So that's just another consideration. And so here I come finally to the purchase proposal. So we're proposing for the class of 2021 purchasing 130 Chromebooks, 10 of them for teachers so that all the teachers have that device to kind of become familiar with. Then our cases, as well as the academic management. So that's a total of $28,000, a little more than $28,000 for the Chromebooks, the cases, and the management. And then as Bob mentioned, it's really important that we have iPads. And so we're proposing purchasing a classroom set of 25 iPads that will be shared. We would need a cart for that, and we need our cases. So that adds another $10,000. So our total proposal is $39,000. Now normally our iPad purchase is close to $50,000. So a couple of things have happened here. One is that the Chromebooks are less expensive, but number 2, in April, Apple decreased our purchasing price from $379, which it's been forever, to $299. So they dropped their price, their education price, $80. So that's an additional savings here. So from the operational budget that we use for these devices, we would save $10,000. And again, depending on what your decision is tonight, down the road we'll have to figure out what we're going to spend that extra $10,000. So that won't be difficult, but so there is our so this is our proposal for the class of 2021.
So just to make sure I understand, so you typically have $50,000 in the budget, but you would normally buy iPads for that freshman class, and you're looking for direction from us and sort of be okay that we shift to the Chromebook for this one class. Not that it's an added cost to the town, it's actually a savings to the town. It's just a shift in direction with technology that sounds like more efficient and just suits the purpose.
Right, and so we're doing it with one class, and if it doesn't work, I think Bob, would agree. If it doesn't work out for some reason, then there's no reason we can't, think about going back to iPads or, kind of revisit it, in a year. But at this point, Bob's data from his teachers, from his staff that will be using this, is all pretty much pointing him toward Chromebooks.
Yeah, and I would say that there's been a lot of prior testing where Kay has been able to purchase some Chromebooks. They haven't out there. And I go back to the situation when we tried out a few netbooks, and almost immediately we said, this isn't going to do it. This isn't going to meet our needs. We haven't had that experience at all with Chromebooks. In fact, quite the opposite.
Madam Chair. So both Mark and I were on the committee when we brought in iPads. We were too, sorry. And so one of the things, we were calling it, initially it was called an iPad program, and we specifically said, we're not going to call it an iPad program, it's a one-to-one program. And you're right, that the iPad at that time was really the only game in town. And so the way I look at this, where this is cost neutral, right, and that 10 grand will help offset the $160,000 deficit we have next year. So this is an educational decision, in my opinion, right? This is not a budgetary decision. This is a decision where the experts, both in the technology and learning, say that this is what's working, this is what the teachers want, this is what we're hearing. So in my opinion, where it's cost neutral, right, effectively, it's actually a little less. I'm fine with that because we purposely chose not to call it an iPad program, to call it a one-to-one device program. I mean, some schools back then were still going with laptops. There was, I want to say either Wakefield or Melrose.
Navy.
They built a whole school and they bought every kid. I don't know how they did that.
So it was PC versus Mac.
What's part of the construction?
Yeah, but they bought everyone. So when we were looking at this, our one-to-one, people were still looking at laptops. So from an educational standpoint, and it sounds like, and if they're cost-effective on top of being a good product, that's better for everyone involved. So when we're in a better position, we can start to use some of that extra money for more technology because we sure have technology needs.
Madam Chair. Yeah, I think we did always discuss that there was going to come a point where we may or may not, it may or may not be iPads at some point. I have a question on with the increased grades we're going to need it for MCAS. How are we network-wise in terms of being able to handle that? Because I heard some anecdotes about great, everybody had to shut their, if you weren't taking MCAS, you needed your devices turned off, otherwise you couldn't. So how are we set up right now, and what do we need to do so that whether it's next year or 2 years from now when everybody's on it, that and I know we've had discussions about what our network needs are, and we had warrant articles, but those warrant articles didn't get funded, so how critical of a situation are we in, and what do we need to do so that people can do what they need to do on a daily basis?
Well, so as far as the MCAS, we did a couple of trial runs in advance infrastructure trials. Our biggest concern was Clyde Brown. We were fine here. We have enough bandwidth to do MCAS in this building. Our access points are just 2 years old. We upgraded our cabling at the same time, and we have a 300 line going in and out. I mean, I'm going to look this summer at whether we should upgrade that to a 500. It's not very much more money. It would be something that I wouldn't even, probably even touch Nancy as a very small increase in money. But in this building, our infrastructure can really handle MCAS. So one of the problems we did run into, though, is all of the students and all of the teachers have their phones on, and then they have their additional device that they're bringing in, and we're trying to test and make sure that the kids that are testing their devices are getting the bandwidth they need. Okay, so we have a caching server and that all works. So basically, Bob asked high school students and staff, as well as middle school students and staff, to turn off. Basically, they can't. We didn't want them on our wireless. They could make a phone call. They could go on to their own 3G or 4G. They could certainly do that, but we didn't want them on our wireless. So during the second phase of MCAS testing, must have been during our math testing, there were still lots of kids on, so we did shut them off. We shut them off our wireless network. Again, there's no safety issue. The kids can still make calls and do whatever they need to do. But so that was just to ensure that we, over the testing period, which is 2.5 to 3 hours. Actually, some of the kids right now have, there was no limitation, but during when everybody would be testing, we need it off. I mean, streaming makes it, if somebody's on their phone streaming, if they're doing something, it all adds up. So I can say pretty confidently that our infrastructure is there for this. It's the additional use of devices, which most days make no difference at all. But on an MCAS day, it's really important to ensure that nothing interferes with that MCAS testing. It's just such high stakes. And then if I go to Clyde Brown, that is trickier. So that the wiring is old, the access points are old. It was very scary, actually. Our infrastructure tests, said that it was going to work and we could keep the kids in the 4th grade wing. We were originally thinking, well, where can we put everybody to spread everybody out to be on a different access point? So it turned out that the only thing we did to make sure things would work is we staggered the kids logging in. We made sure that nobody was logged in until they got to the classroom they were going to be testing in, and then we started with one classroom. Okay, you guys log into the test. Then we went, when everybody got logged in, we went to the next classroom. I would say that over the next 2 years, there's no guarantee at Clyde Brown. So 3rd grade there'll eventually be 2 grades testing online, and so those will have to be on different days. And the same thing happened. We also did the 8th grade test on different days than the 4th grade test happened, because the bandwidth, the connection comes in through this building and goes out to Clyde Brown. So they're at the end of the line.
So, and maybe we can't do this, and this may go to more of the larger question of town-wide, what's our network and infrastructure situation, but, my question would be, what can we do, or what should we be looking at doing so that everybody can be on? Not because having the kids need to be on their phones or whatever, but we just sat here and have listened to presentations about, well, if they're in TV class, then they need to be using iPads. So why, if this is how we're teaching and what we're doing, I want to know what we need to do so that our building, so that every classroom can be on Wi-Fi, so that they're doing the work they need to be doing in their class, not that they have to lose 2 to 3 hours of classroom time on a device because our Wi-Fi can't handle it, or we're concerned that our Wi-Fi may not handle it. So if there's, we don't need to answer it tonight, but if there's something that we should be looking at so that we're not saying we have to black out every other class who's not taking an MCAS because our Wi-Fi can't handle it, or we're concerned about it, that would be good to understand what options we have.
Yeah, I think this year was kind of a minor inconvenience because it was only the 8th grade class.
Right.
But like as you said, next year there's going to be more classes taken. In 2019,
Everybody.
it's going to be everyone, so there'll be more.
So we definitely will probably look at, as I said, we'll probably look at the 500 bandwidth. So one of the things that we struggle with in Millis is on Spring Street, there is where the modem, where the line comes in from Verizon, and we struggled to get the 300. I mean, it took us close to a year for them to change the modem out there so we could get faster internet service. The guidelines are, we really need a gigabyte. And again, that isn't, I don't think that's here yet. I don't think it's here yet. We can only purchase bandwidth that's available to us. And I think in the next 2 or 3 years, there will be more bandwidth, and the state is working with vendors to make this better, because this is their goal. I mean, it's really not bad in Millis. If you go west of Worcester, I mean, those people, it's very difficult. They can't even get what we have. So it's something that we'll continue to look into, because it's so critical. And as Bob said, I think this year, other than, you know, the phones of the kids, you know, 200 kids' phones, everybody else, you know, Dave's lab stuff, he didn't have to change anything that he does. The TV studio, we probably asked them to not do any streaming. They could certainly take videos and do video editing, but just the streaming, you know, YouTube type stuff that would take a lot of, or when multiple people are using it, a lot of bandwidth. But certainly, we'll continue to look into that so that we have the infrastructure, like you say, that doesn't interfere with additional learning during MCAS times.
So one question. So you mentioned that 500, 500 is the next jump up from that, the gig? Is that the next level up?
Yeah.
Is the gigabyte after that? And one of the things I'll just say for the committee and also for us to just consider related to the ESPC is the single entry point that we have today that comes through this facility is also going to be feeding the new school building. That's something that we just want to make sure. I know they're taking into consideration as part of the project, but if it's a single pipe that's still going to continue to come in this way, I know they've already talked about it because they talked to town hall to try and figure out if there's a better way to get the technology into the new facility. I didn't realize that it was a single line in that fed both buildings. So I wouldn't want us to be hamstrung in a new facility if someone comes through here.
Right, and I certainly think that when the conversations start happening, right, I think they really need their own pipe.
Yes, yes. Any additional questions? Does this require a vote for us? I don't know if it does.
No, I don't think so.
Because it's just, okay.
It's a line item and it's
Yeah.
already fixed.
Okay, so, but I'm not quite done.
Okay.
So now I'm gonna go back to MCAS, not quite the question that Mr. Conroy had, but purchasing Chromebooks from school choice funds. So, so I have a purpose. I used a different word than rationale because I used rationale on like 7 slides last time. So I would like to be sure that there are enough devices for the online MCAS testing in spring of 2018 and the future testing. But in addition to that, there's just a growing demand for devices in the district. Specifically, I'd like to propose that we purchase 240 Chromebooks with accessories, which are the cases and the Chrome management from school choice funds. 120 Chromebooks would go to Clyde Brown and 120 to the middle school. So I did a little inventory for you to show you where we were with devices in terms of preparation for MCAS. So grade 8 is really fine. They have plenty of iPads to take the exam. Grade 7, we have 68 iPads that are MCAS ready. Some of the iPad 2s, or all of the iPad 2s that the 7th grade have, are not, they're not capable of taking the MCAS. Just can't, they're just too low level. So we essentially need 49 more iPads. So I don't have that particular proposal for that cost in this. I'm just looking for the Chromebooks now. We may come back and look into that. Maybe that $10,000 I was thinking we could use maybe to get the 7th grade we'll be testing next year up to speed. Grade 6 has 36. Grade 5 has 36. Those are the numbers, the 72 that I mentioned to you that we bought last year. And so with 60 new or 120 new Chromebooks, here we put 60 in grade 6, we put 60 in grade 5, and grade 5 next year will be all set. I looked at the numbers of kids coming up. They'd be all set with this. And sixth grade, aren't testing MCAS electronically till the following year, and there's not so many that we're missing that we couldn't borrow some of those, particularly in fifth and sixth could switch off. So that's what would happen at the middle school. That's how it would look. And then at Clyde Brown next year. So right now, of the 120 we bought last year, 48 went to Clyde Brown, 24 at the grade 3, 24 at grade 4. Small class size in grade 5 next year, so with 60 new ones, they would be all set. And I think that possibly grade 3 the following year would be all set as well. I don't know exactly what I tried to do all the numbers, and I, for some reason, I had not until 2019 as opposed to the numbers that I wanted to put there. But I think you'd be good or very close. And so this is the proposed purchase. It would be 240 Chromebooks shared by grades 3, 4, 5, and 6, the covers, the academic management, and in this case, these would not be the one-to-one where they're going home and students are charging them at home overnight. We would need to be charging these here at school, so I would need charging carts to charge them as well as to secure them. And so this would be just over $61,000. And one thing I wanted to mention, you notice I have that as a note that says in red, that so on the admin team we had come up with a list of, I don't know, 12, 13 things, Bob, I don't know, that we wanted or needed, I would say, throughout the district, from athletics to the high school to all the schools. And this particular proposal was something that I proposed to the admin team, and it came from every administrator voted at either 1 or 2 on their priority list. So this is something for you to mull over. I don't know how this exactly works, but this is to spend some school choice money.
And you do have an update on school choice funds in your packets after Kane and Bob's packet.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Conrad.
I think this is a legitimate request, but I'm not prepared to, I think we should wait until we can have the last meeting of the year where we have end of the year savings. There's a lot of moving parts. I think this is a well thought out and established request. The will of the committee is to do something tonight. I'll follow along, but I'd really like to see what we look like in 2 weeks when we come back. That's generally the end of the year where we do make some of these purchases and we make some decisions. So I don't want to stifle the conversation, but I think we should hold off on this, but I'll let others and you decide how we proceed.
Yeah. While we have Kay and Bob here, do we have questions about the proposal?
I don't have any questions about the proposal. I think I would agree with Steve. I'm not ready to have an up or down on this 60,000 tonight. But one thing I think would be helpful, just looking at the inventory and the schedule. One of the concerns that I'll have in this is buying 240 today means 3 years from now, 4 years from now, we have 240 more that we need to buy on top of. So just understanding what our replacement schedule really is going out. I mean, it's one of the reasons why when we put the original amount in, one of the constraints that we had about not outfitting the whole high school with iPads day one was that we were going to need to replace them over time every year. Every 3 or 4 years we were going to need to replace that classes. So we put ourselves in a position where we were not every 3 years looking for $240,000 to replace the high school's iPads. obviously the cost is cheaper than what it was then, which is great, but I just, that's just my concern. One concern is, so I just, for me, would need to understand what the rollout of replacement really looks like. Right now, we're buying one for the incoming ninth grade or ninth grade every year, and we rotate the 8th grade ones that we've been doing every few years.
4 years.
Right. So we have that schedule. So now, if we do this, what now is the schedule for when things would have to come out?
And that's a really good point, because, as I mentioned, iPad 2s cannot take, I mean, I'm not saying these wouldn't be used by students and teachers all the time, but the MCAS and the reality of, you know, how do we manage that testing means that you're right, that even if they lasted 5 years, I'm not sure that they would be modern enough to take the MCAS. So, you know, you wouldn't want to, you do need to think about when would they be obsolete for testing. And I mean, I don't have the answer to that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, even buying them for the 3rd graders now who don't need them for MCAS for 2 years, they're basically obsolete by the time we even need them for MCAS. Not that we don't need them and they couldn't use them today for the next 2 years, but under the idea that it's to tie into the MCAS.
It's a consideration for sure.
Right.
Kate, question, have you seen any research on how long Chromebooks seem to mechanically last? And then second part of the question is, since it's basically a dummy terminal connecting to the cloud, would it have the same problems with operating system getting too old to accommodate things that, if you can even know this?
I'm not sure that I know that. You know,
Okay.
there is a required operating system, but as you say, I don't actually know. I don't know that detail as to whether the Chromebook, you know, obviously the iPad, those products, you know, get to a point where they can't handle the next operating system. I don't actually have the answer to that on the Chrome, whether that works similarly.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. And back to, so the Chromebooks, you know, they open up and they have a camera that swivels around. They have, you know, keyboard, and so those are all pieces and things that are probably more likely to break than in an iPad in an OtterBox Defender case, you know. So, you know, we are still using, although I met with the Clyde Brown staff this morning, and they're still using the iPad 1s. And, you know, we're talking though about whether it's really time to set those aside. So, you know, I just want to say that we use everything until it can't be used anymore. You know, something like MCAS could change that. But I do think the replacement cycle is an important consideration all around.
Don't take my hesitation to fund it tonight as I don't like this idea. It's a sequencing and kind of a scheduling thing more than, it's not a reflection on either the need. Mr. Conroy's point is, I understand as well that, are we getting ourselves in a position where we need 120 every 3 years, you know, so this is not my hesitation is not a reflection on anything that you presented.
Okay, so I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So I have one more presentation. I have one more presentation.
Just know we're not funding it tonight.
I know, I do. No.
Okay, before you go into that, there's just one thing I just want to say, just for the benefit for us to keep in mind, and again, I'm going to be a little bit of a broken record on this. As we start to be forward-thinking and think about replacement strategy, I do want us to keep in mind the allotment that we get as part of the Clyde Brown project is also related to technology. So making a 60/60, 240 purchase of Chromebooks right now for things that might not occur until 2019, part of that might be rolled up into that Clyde Brown project.
Good point.
So I just want us to make sure that we keep that in consideration as we talk about current spending. Thanks.
Okay, so my final brief presentation, and this one will be pretty quick because I actually don't have any numbers for you, but I just wanted to put it on your radar. So we've been looking for a storage solution. We first put it out there and it went to town hall to be a part of a warrant, and it was eliminated out of hand. So our need hasn't really changed though. We still need this, and I just wanted to explain to you a little bit about what our needs are and why we really wanted to go for the storage solution. So the number of devices has increased, which I think I said to you at my last time I was here, like 6 times the number of devices that we had, 5 to 6 years ago when the one-to-one initiative began. But tech services personnel has remained the same. And one of the goals that I have is, with all these additional devices, I really want or feel that we need to improve the workflow of the people that we have, since we can't get additional personnel. The budget has not allowed for that. The way we handle, so I'm sorry this is such small time. The way we handle storage currently is all of our teachers have a laptop, and we save to that laptop. We save locally there. So that means every summer we want to collect every single laptop, back it up, because it isn't backed up unless the teacher is, putting a flash drive in and backing it up, and I can guarantee you they are not. We suggest they do, but I'm sure they are not. I mean, we're probably all guilty of the same thing. So we need to collect them, and we need to back them up, and we update them, and we go through them. So each laptop takes easily 3 days or 4 days. And it's just a process and a system. The problem is teachers are taking courses in the summer. They're working in the district doing things. Their laptop is their lifeblood to do their work. So in the summer, this becomes a workflow problem for us, where we have everybody's laptop. We want everybody's laptop. Naturally, not everybody will give it to us, and nobody wants to be without it for any length of time. The second problem we have is during the school year. You saw Bob's the ball of death there on his laptop during the school year. Something happened, something like what was happening to his tonight that we saw. Somebody's trackpad, a problem we're having recently is people are complaining about their trackpads, and what it is the battery is slowly exploding underneath, and so now their trackpad doesn't work. So again, we collect their laptop, we have to back it up, troubleshoot it, figure out what to do, what is the problem, and most of the time we try to make the turnaround time 3, 4, maybe 5 days, but sometimes it goes longer than that because there are other things going on. There's lots of things going on. It isn't just about somebody's laptop today that comes in. There could be things sitting in front of that are more urgent. So what it means is our workflow, because of our workflow that is not very efficient, our teachers are without their devices. We can't just hand them a backup device. By the time we then download everything and set a spare up, we really haven't saved any time. So what we'd like to do is we'd like to do storage centrally located, so that my laptop is being backed up every day, and if something happens to it, if my trackpad isn't working, I can go to tech services, and within an hour, maybe an hour and a half, they can just put my profile onto a different laptop, and I walk away with a laptop, and I'm set to work. I'm set to work, and then behind the scenes, we can continue to work on fixing that, but it isn't the same urgency that we have when somebody can't do their job because they don't have it. Okay, so I think I really said that here. So, so we're looking at some solutions. So after the town decided that they weren't going to put our proposal as a warrant, we're looking at a variety of other solutions. The cost ranges from $13,000 to $57,000. That's where we are now. I hoped I would come here tonight with all the numbers, all the answers, and a good proposal for you. But what we're discovering, Dawn, our network manager, myself, all of us are discovering, is storage seems so simple, but it's very complex. There's lots, it isn't like actually our project where we did our APs and the cabling and, you know, we chose this AP over that one. I mean, it was comparing apples to apples. This is comparing apples, pears, oranges. The solutions are very different. You know, they're hyper-converged solutions. They're using solid state, which is very expensive. But it gives us some, we're looking at a NAS solution versus a more server-like one. And the server one, you know, has redundancy in the sense of fans to keep it cool. It has redundancy in that if something fails and we're not here, it automatically shifts to another storage area. It's an enterprise solution, and we consider ourselves an enterprise business, if you will, because we've got, you know, at any given time we've got probably 1,600 to 1,700 people on our network, and we're not sure that the NAS solution of $13,000 is good enough. Is good enough to do the job. I mean, it will take the storage. It will store what we need, but we can't upgrade it. There's no granular control. It's riskier. It's riskier. So I wanted to put this on your radar, and again, this was another high priority item for our admin team. Again, because everybody realizes that, you know, again, the technology is the lifeblood for all our teachers. Every day, I mean, they do attendance, everything. So I'm disappointed that I can just put it on your radar and kind of explain to you, you know, what we're thinking. But the process is, you know, we had 4 vendor calls today. And they call us back. Well, we want to do this, we do that. So we're trying to work through it. So we're hoping that before or by your next meeting, that we have a proposal to spend more of the choice funds, but a proposal that makes sense for Millis Public Schools and does the job, doesn't overdo it, but doesn't underdo it either, that we have just the right solution. So that's it. Thank you all for listening.
Questions? Thank you both very much. Thank you. Move on to the chairman's report, of which I have nothing. Subcommittee reports. The Elementary School Building Committee. Would you like to give an update?
You're the chair. You update.
For the Elementary School Building Committee.
Nothing to report. It's been a slow week.
By the time everyone sees this, it'll be old news that the school project passed by 86% at last night's town meeting. So we are all very thankful to the residents of Millis for attending and supporting the school project.
You're here.
Next step is already in process, where the construction manager at risk evaluations are in process right now, and by the middle of July will be selected. So we are pushing forward full steam ahead to try and stick to a very aggressive schedule with the fall of 2019 as the target opening date. I don't think we have any correspondence. No, Nancy? Any school committee announcements? The Soul?
No.
Catalano?
I just want to thank everyone for coming out last night and supporting at town meeting and also supporting at the polls. It was the biggest spread both at the polls and at town meeting for any project in this town, especially the biggest project ever.
It was a great turnout. I will speak as I've been here for the last, 2 years. 2 years ago, we got handed this opportunity and we were searching around, and 3 members of the committee volunteered to take it on and have carried it the entire way. Countless Wednesday mornings that I know you guys spent. So thank you. And for the audience, the three members were Denise, Steve, and Jen, who stepped up and said, we'll do it. And now it's time to build it.
Now the work starts.
Exactly. Ms. Roach?
I'm good.
All right. No old business or new business? And,
I can give a brief
okay,
update
okay.
in executive session.
All right. So I'll take a motion to adjourn to executive session, not to return back to open session.
So moved.
Jen moved
Jen.
second.
And then a second, Mark in a second? Okay. I'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Stoll? Mr. Catalano?
Yes.
Mr. Conroy?
Yes.
Ms. Roach? All right, meeting adjourned.